Yo, what's going on, guys? And today I want to talk about the roster for the New York Knicks, what it's going to look like now that Malcolm Brogdon has retired. And Brogdon, allegedly, was set to make the roster. And now that he's gone, it seems that Landry Shamet and Garrison Mathews are locks to make the roster. And if you haven't been keeping up with the Knicks, by the way, before we continue, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. What is your expectation for the final roster? Who do you think is going to get moved? We've heard Pacom Da, and Tyler Kolek be guys who could be potentially moved. Now, you can only have 15 players, and you can have 18 total, 15 standard contracts, 3 two-way contracts, which means they can spend 41 games in the NBA, and then the rest is on the G League affiliate, making like $600K. Now, the Knicks' current roster, if you guys aren't fully aware, Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, Karl-Anthony Towns, Mitchell Robinson, Gershon Yabusele, Landry Shamet, Jordan Clarkson, Deuce McBride are the 10-man. Then you have Ariel Hukporty, who's on a non-guaranteed deal. Same thing with Mohamed Diawara, who was their second-round pick this year. Garrison Mathews and Matt Ryan and Landry Shamet. Garrison Mathews and Landry Shamet are expected to be on the team. So we already mentioned the first 10 guys. Tyler Kolek, Mathews, Diawara, Da, and Ariel Hukporty would make up 15 guys. Now, if Diawara was cut and moved to a two-way, and they cut either Trey Jemison or Tozan and move Diawara to a two-way, that would move them to 14, and they could keep Matt Ryan, which I think is possible. Because I don't think Alex Lynn's making the team, who's another guy on a non-guaranteed deal, and nor is Donovan Williams. So if they were to cut one of their two ways and move Diawara there, then they would be able to keep Matt Ryan, Garrison Mathews, and Landry Shamet. What do you guys think? I think they're going the right way about constructing this roster, understanding they need guys who are able to play off ball, able to play without the ball, provides them with shooting in bunches, but also guys who can defend on their own in the perimeter and just be able to keep this offense that had stagnation problems. Yes, I know last year it's Tom Thibodeau, who he usually runs the same lineups and is the simplest, most vanilla, uncreative offense there is, even though it works because he lets his boys play. Mike Brown, I think, is equally good of a coach, if not better. He's a better offensive coordinator. I think he's just as good as a defensive coach. He's a defensive coach first, by the way, and offensive coach second. He's coached both sides of the ball for the Warriors when they won championships, and he was a defensive coach for Greg Popovich in the 2000s. So there's a history there, and to me, I think he's just gonna have better play design. And the teams that he's had the most success with were always teams that had multiple wings, with usually one ball handler, multiple wings, a forward and a big, and they're going to be able to implore different looks. And that's the other thing, is Mike Brown is willing to experiment with lineups. And if you guys remember the first year with the Sacramento Kings, he had them become the number one offense. They break the playoff drought, and he basically said the following offseason that he wanted, moving forward, to focus on defense, to make this team go from, I think at the time, they were the number one offense while being the league's worst defense. And they said, I'm willing to sacrifice a top 5 offense or top 10 offense to have a closer to top 15 offense if it means we have a top 20, top 15 defense. And I agree with that philosophy. I'd rather have both sides of the ball be, 15 and 15 ranked than being number 1 and number 30, where we're killing it on one side, but we're bleeding points on the other. Now, a little bit of some reporting to go with what we're discussing from The Athletic, James L. Edwards and Fred Katz were the ones who put this out after the surprising announcement of Malcolm Brogdon's retirement. Mike Brown, obviously, is going to be someone. Also, by the way, they said the reason that Brogdon retired was that he was feeling no longer up for the toll, both physically and mentally, after years of dealing with injuries. And if he had just been on the opening night roster, he would have become officially a 10-year vet and would have gotten health insurance and like a bunch of benefits for the rest of his life through the NBA PA plan, but guess not. The other thing, I'm just going to put this in passing. I know from sources that work or have worked at organizations that Malcolm Brogdon played for hate him. They call him a locker room lawyer, and that like he's not the best person if he doesn't like you, in terms of just like he can divide people, and he's a really smart guy, but he thinks he's usually the smartest person in the room. That's what, I don't know this for sure, that's just what I've heard, and not the type of guy you want on young teams, which is ironic because he spent the last 2 years on young teams. But the Knicks have been widely reported to have been looking to make a trade, and we talked about that earlier. So with this news, the teams can retain Landry Shamet and Garrison Mathews without having to make any further moves. According to James L. Edwards and Fred Katz, The Athletic, sharpshooting guard Garrison Mathews is seemingly in the mix with Shamet, as he'll be someone who'll make the opening regular season spot. And Mathews is a guy who last year was like one of the league leaders in deflections, and he also has like one of the best 3-point rates in the league per minute. And he shot 42% last year while averaging 7 points. Well, my apology, Mathews is averaging 7 points and 42% from 3 in the preseason so far for the Knicks. And if he doesn't make the team, he's actually not going to play for the Winchester Knicks. He's just going to try to hop on another team, which is smart because he's good enough to do that. He'd be like the top free agent. And he's someone who could get minutes early in the season due to the fact that Josh Hart is still working his way back from back spasms. And Mike Brown's unsure if he's going to be there on opening night. And the Knicks are going to have Mitchell Robinson on load management, while he has been starting with Karl Anthony Towns through like during the preseason. But given his extensive injury history, the New York Knicks plan to hold the defensive-minded center out of some games as precautionary measures. Now, I wonder if there's going to be any other moves that will happen. And I don't know. I think the biggest question, like Matt Ryan was the guy they had last year and then they waived him. I'm assuming he's going to be someone that they're going to keep, even though I don't know if he's someone who's been a huge factor for them this year, because it really hasn't been like that. And they signed him to an Exhibit 10, but is he going to be like Alex Len or not? If they were to cut Garrison Mathews, it would be to cut Matt Ryan, but from what I'm understanding was Alex Len wasn't expected to make the roster, but Matt Ryan, who was on a non-guaranteed deal, he is viewed as somebody like he's seen as a long shot. With Brogdon out of the way, Shamet and Garrison Mathews take up the final 2 spots. We're assuming Diawara will be moved to a 2-way after waived, and maybe they cut a guy like Tosan, so Diawara can be put to a 2-way. They would have to trade either or cut Errol Hugborty or a guy like Tyler Kolek, Tyler Kolek, or a Pacome Dadie. So let me hear your thoughts.